Today HSR released the new version, which is the version 4.4, and it is looking amazing, and you can consider it is most hype or anticipated patch into the HSR community just because of we are going to get a most popular character of its Awaken version and also the Fate Part 2 collab. So when it comes to a collab patch, they always make some huge amount of money, and it is not different. Just like the Udaringas, they were somewhat of a behind the Genshin Impact all the time, but when the collab is actually hitting with the Cyberpunk, they just totally buckle up to a #1 position in consider of the 3 juggernaut games, which is holding the most of the player base into the gacha community. Now for the collab version, we are going to get a 1 limited character and also 1 free character, just like the part 1 where we do get a Saber, which is a limited, and also Archer was a free. Currently we are going to get a Gilgamesh for free, and also Rin Tosaka is going to be the limited ones where you have to use your Stellar Jet to pull for it. So if you haven't even logged in during the part 1, I guess you might have already missed the Archer, so you have to have an option of a picking both 2 character when it comes to the free version, which is the Archer and also Gilgamesh. If you do have a Saber, I guess picking the Gilgamesh is going to be the best slot, but if you really want to pick for their win, I guess you have to pull for the Archer, so you cannot even have both. If you do have the Archer already, I guess picking the Gilgamesh is going to be the best one, but if you really want to have a constellation for the Archer, then you do have another choice. Now that's not the main thing. The main thing is that alongside with the collab, we do have a most highly popular character with its Awaken version, which is the Himeko Nova. She was our fan favorite girl since the Honkai Impact 3rd, and also when the Honkai style was released, she was our first standard character, and also her ultimate animation is totally jaw-dropping in that time. So currently people were expecting that when she's going to have her kind of like an Awaken version, but the name herself, which is a Himeko Nova. Nova is kind of like a buffing system that the HSR has been doing past few months, but they are, instead of buffing the original standard version, they just totally named herself into Himeko Nova and also making a new character holdover of a new entity. I don't know what they are actually trying to get here, but it is what it is. Anyway, today we are going to see that why she is actually belong into this current tier list, since she does have a restricted playstyle, and also her playstyle is kind of like a unique one, but her ultimate generation is not even the kind of like a unique compared to any of this like a rest of the characters, just like the Silver Funnel 1999, Achiron, and also Fei Xiao, and also Feinon as well as. But her ultimate generation is kind of like a standard of energy, or where you have to fill up it with a certain numbers, and after filling up, she is going to deploy her ultimate. That's the whole thing she's actually done. But one thing is for sure, when she is actually reviewing her gameplay, it is totally jaw-dropping to the player base. Even to this day, player are considering her ultimate animation is kind of like a second after the Feinon. Yes, when Feinon was released, that Feinon was kind of like a power creeping each and every other existing character, even to the Castorys, where we thought that Castor is kind of like a highly animated character into the HSR, but after the Feinon release, people are totally jaw-dropping that how much of a highly animated they have been putting for the Feinon, just because of his kind of like a lore heavy characters. But for the Himeko, she is actually holding the second position when it comes to animated heavy characters, just because of you are going to have a mecha things, and also when she is actually on the field, she will going to deploy a robot which is going to give you a follow-up damage. So that's how much of a uniqueness that you are going to find for the Himeko's kit and also all over Himeko's playstyle. But when it comes to her team building section, she's kind of like restricted, as I already mentioned before in my version 2 changes, and also explained that she does have a 2 types of playstyle, which is a component protocol Verdict and also component protocol Decimation. Verdict is kind of like on herself, where she's going to give her a self buff, so the team that she's actually required to have on that part, that team member are going to be a kind of like a battery generation for her. But when it comes to the component protocol of a Decimation, that playstyle are going to be kind of like a support role for her, and also she's going to provide a huge amount of buff to other characters or towards the team member, whatever the team she does have. But that team member should be Astral Express. If you don't even have Astral Express, you are going to lose a huge amount of value. That I already explained. If you haven't even checked it out, you can totally check it out, and I already give you a proper explanation how the playstyle and also how the things are actually working. Let's see where she is actually belong. And another important part is that the tier list site that I'm actually choosing, which is the Priority.gg, they are mostly well known for the making this kind of like a tier list for the HSR. Now they are not only making tier list for the HSR, they also make the tier list for the Udaringas, Zenlethon Zero, alongside with other 13 popular games. So they are kind of like a way too much popular to making these types of stuff. But beside than that, don't take their fact as a seriously. Take it as a grain of salt, just because of when they are actually making tier list and also placement a certain character into the day one, this is totally based on the beta testing that have been done with a certain of a few number of people. But when the character is actually released, it actually hands over to the million plus in official versions. They do have a chance to do a multiple rounds and multiple stuffs with some of the other team options. In that time, they are going to see that how the characters are actually fully flourished when it is actually put into a other situation. You have to wait for it to make it a balance or make it a stabilized position of her. So don't even totally indulge by their decision in the first phase. Anyway, let's see why she's actually belong into the first initial phase. Okay, this is a apex tier characters. As I already mentioned before in my other video, apex tier one of those like a tier. According to this tier list, they are totally juggernaut characters. They are the meta creators, not a meta reliant. Other meta characters who are actually reliant to the some of those like a buff or endgame buff, whatever the endgame is actually providing to a certain patches. So that character are going to be not even bench and somewhat have a usefulness. But when it comes to apex tier, they are the most broken tier. They don't even rely on a meta. They are the meta character. Meta is always going to be revolving around them. I guess you get a grasp that what I'm trying to say here. Oh my god, she belongs to the tier 0 at her first phase, and also on her first initial release she considered as a tier 0 for the 3 endgame modes. Holy shit man, holy shit. Another important part is that the changes that they have been putting, which is the Trailblazer Remembrance, has already been changed its position from tier 0.5 to tier 0. I guess the main thing is that, as I already mentioned before in my intro, is that Himeko Nova does have 2 types of playstyle: component protocol verdict and also component protocol decimation. This component protocol decimation and also verdict, if you do have use the 2 types of playstyle at the same time, you can even have these types of playstyle just because of having the 2 types of criteria. Because in the component protocol verdict, if you do have a Trailblazer, whatever the version it is, and also the DHPT or whatever the version it is, as well as because DHPT does have the remembrance version and also 4-star of a DPS version. And another character that you have to have in that team, which is the Sunday. If you just somehow put these 3 characters into the Himeko teams, you are going to be played as the companion protocol of a verdict playstyle, where Himeko is going to be played as a hyper carry rather than a support character. But if you just somehow put these characters such as the March 7 Eva Knight and also the March 7 of a 4-star version, which is a kind of like a preservation version, or you can say the defense versions, and another character that you have to put for that playstyle to make up, which is the wealth. But wealth, having the wealth E0 is not going to be helpful at all. You have to put the wealth E4 to make it much more viable than ever. Other than that, if you just somehow able to use this team, which is a component protocol of decimation, in that time Himeko are not even going to give herself a buff. She's also going to give a crit damage buff and also respect towards the whole team member, where other whole team members are also going to do a damage good amount of time. If you just somehow mixed match both 2 teams characters in a single teams, I guess you are going to have a mixed breed of a playstyle, and also you are going to deal at 2 types of playstyle damage at the same time. That's how much of flexible she has been. But these types of things are going to be very much restricted if you do have Astral Express team members, which is a way too much restricted. The another important part is that if you don't even have the Astral Express team member and also use the other characters in that team, I guess you are going to lose a huge amount of value. Because when the Astral team member are also going to be in that team, whenever the characters already have the its turn, they do have a 2 types of version. First one is going to be the SCC skills, yes, which I already forgot to mention. Whenever the SCC skill actually going to be proc, certain robots are going to be deployed, and that deploy are going to use a follow-up attack, and this follow-up attack are going to be generate the Himeko's ultimate. This is the main crucial point where you have to totally need it the most. If you don't even follow the SCC skill and also somewhat not even have a higher amount of efficiency of a SCC skill, I guess you are going to lose a huge amount of value, and you might not even be able to generate her ultimate properly, and also you cannot even clear the endgame mode faster. But having the Astral Express team member, whenever this team member having its own turn, I already mentioned 2 types of icon are going to be appear. First one is going to be SCC skill, and second one is going to be their own turn. So when you are going to use the SCC skill, that SCC skill also be count, and also you do have the options to use that character own skill point and also do that character own of a work. Suppose if it is a Sunday can even use this skill and also ultimate to give the Himeko's of a ultimate generation to fill up her ultimate much more faster. If it is a Welt can even use the SC skill point and also use his own turn to use his ultimate and also his skill point to do the some kind of like a debuff or provide the debuff, where Himeko does have a chance to give a higher amount of damage number. That's how much of proficiency that you are going to have if you are using the Astral Express team member. But when it comes to outside the Astral Express team member, the character does have the 2 types of option. First one is going to SC skill point and also their own turn, but when they are using the SC skill point, these SC skill points, after that they cannot even use their own turns to do their own works. This is a higher amount of disadvantages, and it is also putting herself restricted tag, which most of the player don't want to in the first place. Anyway, that's all for these things, which I already give you a brief descriptions. Anyway, let's see where the other characters have totally changed its original position from the previous patches. I haven't even seen any of this character changing their other position. The one thing is for sure, HSR is totally changes her previous position, which was she was considered as a tier 1.5. Currently she is a tier 0.5. Well, her position was changed when the Mortinex Blade was released. These guys totally shattering to each and every records, as I already mentioned before in my previous video. Even to this day, this guy considered as a reality character, but reality kind of like facing a identity crisis where they don't even role play as a debuff character. They also played as a support character, what the harmony characters are specialized. The other characters that they're actually putting a watch list, which is going to be the Welt. This guy has been a watch list for a few patches just because of the Nova buff that the developers had already given him like a few patches ago, and he's actually broken to the core. If you just somehow have him E4, man, this guy is going to be the way too much insane, and this guy is kind of like a Mr. Worldwide, just like the Martinez player. Having, if you already have a lost 50-50 way too much with the Welt, I guess you are not even going to be sad. You are need to be happy just because of these Welt are kind of like compared to the on the par level with the Martinez blade. Other characters, I'm not saying any of this like a changes has been happening. I don't know why they just totally use the March 7 Hunt which a watch list. I guess they need to put her some tests to see that is she actually going to provide any kind of like a value to this team member or not. Just because of Himeko Nova, some of the character are might even going to be change their position from before. As I already mentioned before, if you really want to use the extra express team member and also lacking the other team members such as Sunday and also premium team members, or which is like a DHPT, if you haven't even logged in during the time when the developers were giving you a DHPT free, I guess this is another options you have to put yourself, which is a March 7 the Hunt. It is a free character, just playing the event and also other things. You are going to get that character without having any kind of worry. Anyway, let's see the review what they're actually trying to put here. First one is going to be the pros, and also second one is going to be the cons. Pros means what kind of benefits that you are going to get from her, and cons means what kind of disadvantages she does have into the kit and also whole over of your playstyle. So for the pros, first point is going to be excellent performance in AoE content and also good single target as well. As you already know that she comes from the Erudition class. Erudition class is kind of like considered as the best in slot for the AoE characters. They don't even do have a good single target, since they already mentioned that she does have a good amount of damage number for a single target, as well as I guess she does have the kind of like a breakthrough what the Erudition was not even before. Now second point is going to be great damage profile and versatile self buffs thanks to having a two distinct forms. The two distinct forms that I already mentioned, which is they're having a two types of teammate. First one is going to be the Component Protocol Verdict and Component Protocol Decimations. Verdict is a hyper carry for her, and also Companion Protocol of Decimation is going to be sub DPS, where she's actually doing a good amount of DPS and also buffing the whole over team member, where they can also have a chance to do a huge amount of damage. That's the thing that I trying to mention in here. For the third option, which is going to be the versatile and also accessible team option, as I already mentioned before, if you don't even have the Welt and also DHPT, the other option could be actually going to be Warford, which is a Trailblazer. And Trailblazer, having Trailblazer is a main character, you are going to have it, and also you are going to play with this one with your whole over until the game dies. So just because of the Trailblazer, the one version is going to be kind of like a universal one, which is the Trailblazer of Remembers version, which can give you a 2 damage buff. 2 damage does not even care any of this like a defense rate and also any of the resistance of the whole over enemy. Himeko does even going to have a huge amount of damage boost just because of the Remembers Trailblazer. And also Welt, if you just somehow not even have a Welt, if you are a day one player, I guess other options could be just having the use the selectors and also other options such as the standard characters with the 300 pulls. That's the thing that you have to maintain. For the next point, which is going to be the introduced as a brand new SSC skill mechanics, which I already mentioned before. SSC skill means when you are going to deploy herself into the field, she does have a 2 types of one. A robot are going to be appeared, that robot are going to do a AoE types of damage, and whenever she is also have her own turn, and also other team member does have these types of 2 types of option. First one is going to be the SC skill point, and second one is going to have their own turn. If you don't even have the extra express member, that character doesn't even have their own turn, and that character have to sacrifice their own turn with the SC skill mechanics, which the Himeko is actually providing, which is kind of like a unique one, but kind of like a have a drawback as well as at the same time. For the next one, which is going to be the has superior long-term support thanks to the interacting with the new Trailblazer competence tags. Oh my god, this is another point which I already mentioned before. I'm not going to describe it anymore. For the next one, which is going to be the low skill floor with a high skill ceiling. So low skill floor means that she does not even have that much of a high skill play style, but you have to do some of those like other certain things. But if you really using the outside of a extra express member, you have to have the high skill selling point to make the damage with the high skill selling as well. Since we do have a lots of free options such as the March 7 of a different versions, and also the Trailblazer, and also other characters such as the DHPT, if you are somehow logging during the time when they're actually giving you a free, I guess you are going to be a good to go. Most of the times she is actually having her buff herself, and also she can give the buff towards the team member as well as at the same time. And another next point, which is going to be the exceptional vertical investment option. Exceptional vertical investment means they are trying to make it here. If you just somehow have her E2, the AC skill points are going to be way too much faster, and also her ultimate generation are kind of like a one sweep, or you can say the one snap. So she's going to be ultimate maniac, and you are going to do a lots of damage with her if you just having her E2. And also I already heard that with her E2 she is going to be a less restricted what her E0 going to give you, especially with the express team member. And also her next one, which is going to be the ultimate, has a built-in overkill prevention. I don't know what they are trying to mean here. If you just somehow know it, you can even totally let me know in the comment section. For the last one, which is are going to be, we are really placing the heavens with this one. That's they are trying to mention, which is a robot. When you are going to deploy the robot, you are going to see the battlefield, what you are actually battling since the day one of the game's release, and you are going to have a zoom out view with the robot one, and also destroy the whole over battlefield, what the ultimate are actually doing right here. For the cons, we do have a 3 point. I mean, it's the second time that we are going to see a certain characters with a less of a cons. So I can consider that this is the must pull character. If you do have a pull, so I guess pulling for her is going to be the best method of options after the blade. Yes, blade does not even have that much of a low options, and people, and also they are consider him as a must pull character whatever the cost it is. Anyway, for the cons of a first option, which is going to be, first point is going to be signature light cone is extremely good, and also alternates are far behind. Well, there's is also another kind of like a very bummer, because since she doesn't even have that much of a free to play options for the Erudition, but we do have a free to play options for the hard to light cone, and also some just like a Himeko standard of a signature light cones. Those are can be good options, but for her signature light cone, that can give you a 35% boost, and so the other boost, defense ignores, and sounds like a skill point boost are going to be there as well. As you need to reconsider before just totally skipping her signature weapon if you really want to build her with a perfect synergy. For the next one, which is going to be the dual form, teams are very difficult to play. Yes, she does have a 2 types of formation, which I already mentioned before: combined protocol verdict, combined protocol decimation. If you just somehow mix match those two team members or those two team members in the single teams, I guess this could be a good options, but sometimes it will actually going to give her fatigue, and also sometimes of a less value than ever. For the last one, which is going to be the strongest premium team, have a contested teammates. Okay, so the premium team that they're actually trying to mention in here, which is going to be the Well T4 and also Sunday. Other than that, I'm not seeing any of those like other options that you have to use it. Well, other options could be like a Trailblazer and Remembrance. That character is still even to this day considers like a universal support. Just put him any of those like a team selection or a dot. It could be like a super bag. This free to play of a Trailblazer Remembrance version could totally outshine each and every support character whatever the game is actually providing to you, even better than the Brownie and also other free to play support character that the game actually providing to you. So this kind of like a contestant that you have to put yourself. If you do have the other teams such as the don't even have the Sireney, and also trying to use the Trailblazer for your custodies and also some other teams, I guess there might be kind of like difficulty to mix match of your teammate selection since you don't even have other options right now. So that's all for this like a review. Let's see what kind of team members she does actually require. For the team building sections, the first and also premium team is going to be consist of a Himeko, Blade Martinez, which is a recent top tier debuff character or support characters, and other character is going to be Welt, and it has to be the E4. Other sustain character is going to be the DHPT, and also DHPT is going to be the best install for her since he does really require the extra space team member. For the second team, is also going to be the premium but also a Verdict playstyle, which I already mentioned before, Protocol Verdict, and this the first one is going to be the Protocol Verdict and also Decimation mixed between it. And for the Verdict playstyle, where you really want to use her with a hypercarry playstyle, I guess Remembrance are going to be a very much of a good one, since the Remembrance are going to give you a 2 damage buff, and having the 2 damage buff for a DPS character is going to be a kind of heavenly gift that you are actually providing to your DPS character. For the third option, which is going to be the Himeko Nova Advanced Verdict, well, Verdict where you are going to use the Sunday and also the Sparkle. Sunday is also Extral Express team member, and also DHPT also Extral Express team member, where you do have a good amount of chance to use her ultimate generation, since Sunday ultimate can also provide a huge amount of boost and also fill up her ultimate most of the case. Other team member option is going to be the Martinez Blade and also Welt. Man, Welt Martinez Blade, I guess this is the kind of like a Mr. Worldwide that the game is actually trying to implement in here. Other than that, which is Remembrance, I guess this kind of like a sustainless, since if you do have a good amount of speed, all of those characters, you don't even have to think about it, because you are the one who actually have higher turns compared to the enemy. And another important part is the Welt does have the debuff mechanics, and also whenever he is actually using the ultimate, all of the team members are going to be contact with the chain attacks, and these chain attacks doesn't even move them good amount of turns, while your characters does have a higher amount of chance to deal the damage without getting hit. And the last and the final team is going to be the budget Himeko, where people are considered as a free to play, since the Trailblazer, remember, this is a free one, and also Sparkle is also a free one, since we do have a selector version where Sparkles are going to give us a free. And well, if you don't even have a world, if you are still a day one player, getting a 300 pools and selecting one is going to be the another options. DHPT is a free, and also Who is also free, which is where golden spirit shop that you are going to get from it. This is kind of like a good of a team building options, but in the beta testing what we thought that he's going to be restricted, and also that amount of like a nerf that the developers are actually providing to her kind of like a concerning to me. But right now she's actually have a good amount of a balanced team options. So I guess that's all for this like a tier list. I'm not seeing any of this like a major changes has been happening since of her release, but other characters such as the March 7 and also Welt are going to be higher up on the list into the upcoming patches, just because of she does really require these team members to make her a much more proficient and also make her ultimate a much more highly than ever. So that's all for this video. If you like it, leave a like. If you do have an opinion regarding her position into the initial phase, you can totally let me know in the comment section. So up until then, to the next video, peace.